5, 4, 3, 2, 1, fire. The only thing we have to fear is fear.
Mile 18.
This is Endurance Nation.
Are you tired of just losing your fitness every year? Of getting out there on the open road come springtime and everyone else is still faster than you and you're not making progress? We understand. We created the Outseason program just for you. It's a 14-week protocol for triathletes and gravel cyclists with an opportunity to lock in through your Zwift workouts and focused training to unlock your potential by targeting functional threshold and high VO2 workouts with some endurance on the weekends. We build your fast before you're far. So by the time you get to the spring, you can turn down the fast and start adding some volume when the weather gets nice and unleash your endurance potential. Stop following the same program and hoping you get different results. Head over to endurancenation.us/outseason to get our 14-week program for one low price now.
Is your race budget actually holding you back from your best performance? Today, I'm going to tell you why training camps are a smarter investment than your races. My name is Patrick McCrann, and I am the head coach, chief instigator, chief punishment delegator here inside Endurance Nation. And this week, I'm talking to you about the power of training camps. No, not just because we run training camps. I'm talking to you about training camps because they have been my personal secret weapon since 2009. That's right. Endurance Nation was started in 2007. And just 2 years later, I realized that every time I went to a race area to do a training camp ahead of a race, ahead of Wisconsin, ahead of Lake Placid, ahead of Louisville, I got to do a bunch of training. And that training bump actually made up for the fact that I wasn't training very much. Now, why? Why on earth wasn't I training very much? Well, my daughter was born in 2008. My second one was born in 2006. And between the both of them, I was just trying to bounce between having a regular life and an actual training life. When you actually get down to the brass tacks, putting together a week as an endurance athlete is really tough. And trying to add volume every week is the silent killer. That's what gets everybody, because what people try to do is they try to add more volume. They read an article about a professional and they're like, I want to do more like that. I want to train more like that. We start stealing hours from everywhere else, stealing hours from lunch, stealing hours from the evening, stealing hours from the morning, stealing hours from our sleep or our family. At the end of the day, we pay a hefty price for those gains that we wanted from volume. But there's a better way, and it's the training camp. So I want to tell you my story so you can understand how you can actually leverage the same secret for your own personal success. So let's go back in time. 2009, here I am looking at, I've got 2 kids. Life is crazy. I'm a work from home dad. My wife amazingly out there providing health insurance, doing everything, and also keeping the lights on, being an incredible mom. And I'm trying to figure out how can I train and still be competitive, still own a business, run a business, be a stay-at-home dad. What's going on? How do I make it work? And the way that my week actually turned out to be was I could work out in the morning before the kids got up and before my wife went to work. She was there sort of as coverage. I could do it. During the day, sometimes the kids would nap. Maybe I could get 20, 30 minutes indoors on a trainer or something. But for the most part, my daytime was pretty preoccupied, right? And then at evening, when my wife came home and we had dinner, after dinner, I'd have a little bit of time as well. Maybe go for a short run, or maybe I could time it just right and it was still light outside, depending on the time of year. My wife would want to go do stuff with the kids, and then I could also go for a run around the block or take the kids in the jogging stroller. Lots of jogging stroller times. Boy, got a lot of jogging stroller stories for you. Those of you who want to commiserate about your kids like taking off their shoes and just chucking them into the woods. That's how much they love those long runs. So this is before they had all the iPads and the fancy stuff that people make their kids watch while they work out today. So how did I actually get faster? How did I get stronger? Well, first, let's be clear. When people actually start to have families or have to back away from their training and to the sort of traditional work that they've done in the past, you, like me, will actually see a little bit of a benefit. I actually wasn't resting enough between my workouts, and just life made me have to rest more. It wasn't like that I was rested with young kids. It was crazy for both of us. But at the end of the day, I actually was in a better place for my training stress balance. Now, I wanted to get faster, and I couldn't do it on this fixed schedule. So what does it look like? Well, it looks like training camps. And so what I was doing was 3 times a year, I was going to a race to do a camp. And then 3 times a year, I was going to a race to support that race. That means I had 6 times a year where I was free from kids, and I had anywhere between 3 and 3.5 days to be able to do some training. So literally, some of the pictures you'll see from me from Ironman Louisville, I'm wearing my full cycling kit because I'm doing a talk at 10 a.m. and then I'm going to get on my bike and ride 100 miles afterwards. Trying to maximize the entire day to do some part about work and some part about training. And it was really interesting to me that I started to see some gains. I was training because I just love to train. But what I didn't anticipate, and the value where you can learn from this story, is that actually the work I was doing during the weekends was just enough to bump my fitness level up, that my work done during the week could actually maintain it. In other words, I wasn't overdoing the volume. I wasn't doing so much that I was actually struggling for the rest of my time. In fact, I was actually doing the opposite. I was doing enough to actually create enough of a bump. And then I would come back, and my regular training, which was lower than I was historically have been, actually would allow me to absorb and keep going stronger. So with 6 of those weekends a year, I basically had anywhere from 2 to 3, sometimes even 4 weeks between these events. And then I had my own races as well that I was going to. So I had about 7 or 8 big weekends a year of just huge volume, right? Where I'd do 100 miles on the bike, and then I'd run afterwards, or we'd swim earlier, and then 100 miles on the bike, and then run, etc. Right? If it wasn't 100 miles, why are we doing it, right? Those were the days. So what actually happened was I had a very atypical schedule than what most coaches or most programs will tell you. Most programs will say, oh, your race is in 12 weeks. We're here at day 0. Here is day, whatever that is, 84. We're going to get you to go from 0 to 84 by just following this line of an increased effort over time, right? Sounds good. Just a little more swimming and a little more biking, a little more running every week. Could be fine, right? 10%. Sounds safe, right? 10% sounds totally safe. What does that even mean? Actually, that's not the way that our body works, right? Actually, we need cycles of work and rest, and having intermittent volume like a training camp can really help you out. So you can be on a baseline of 8 to 10 hours a week of regular training, regular stress, et cetera, managed well, maybe 1 or 2 double sessions during the week, right? Or maybe on the weekends. Then you go away to a camp. You can actually lower your weekend volume a little bit. You're going to travel to where you're going, and you're going to lower your volume because you got to get all the stuff done before you go. Be a good, worker bee or family bee or whatever it is you're doing. Then you go to your camp. You do this big little volume pop. Do your total weekly hours in those 2 days. So if you normally do 10 hours, you can do 10 hours in 2 days. That's 5 and 5. That's a lot of volume, but you can do it because you've been doing 10 hours before. I'm not suggesting you go out and run 10 hours for those 10 hours. Again, I'm talking about multi-sport athletes here. But regardless, you mix up those modalities, you put all that time in, you come back, you're exhausted. You need 2 days off to absorb it. You get back to your regular training, which was very minimalistic and good. And after a week or 2, you're actually pretty fully recharged, and you don't see the negative consequences. Because the negative consequences from actually boosting your volume from training don't come from the boosting itself. The negative consequences come from repetitive injury. In other words, repetitive volume. In other words, I like to do a century, so I'll do one this weekend. And then, hey, how about next week if we do a century? And you know what? How about that third weekend? Let's do another century. I know people who've done a century every weekend into an Ironman just because they thought that was just a thing that they should do. It's basically the equivalent of running 20 miles every weekend into your marathon because you just feel like you should run 20 miles every weekend because that just sounds right, doesn't it? I'm just kind of guessing, right? It's like me walking to a lab and deciding what's going to happen with a bunch of test tubes. No. There's no common sense around this stuff. You actually have to balance it against your life. So instead of starting with what your favorite pro is doing or what you just read in the most recent article, you should instead sit back and say, what does my good life look like during a basic week? How do I train, put in quality work, and get recovery while still managing all my other commitments? Then how can I think outside the box? Instead of stealing little bits of time all the time from my family, what if I was an amazing person or amazing worker, or amazing spouse, amazing significant other, amazing, social, contributor to all the good things in your town, right? What if you could do that? And then we just say, hey, one weekend a month, I'm just going to kind of take off and just do some crazy stuff, right? Go to your family and say, listen, I'm going to be around for 3 weekends, but that 4th weekend, I'm going to be gone until lunchtime both days. So please figure it out. But the other 3 weekends I'll be here. That's actually a pretty fair trade. Now, given your aspirations, obviously, you still require some negotiation and recognition of what your spouse, your significant other, or whatever sacrifices you're making on your personal time to accommodate your training. But most people are happy to put up that. 25% of the time you're doing something else, 75% of the time you're here. That's not so bad, right? And if you get good at it, eventually you'll actually be able to manage a schedule, prepare yourself ahead of time so you're not losing administrative time by doing this poorly. But remember, you don't even have to go far to do this. You could even do a big epic weekend these days in your trainer. You could run outside and then get on the trainer and run outside, get on the trainer. You can do a ton of work in and around your space, your local space, without having to go far away, go to the Alps, go to Wisconsin, go to any one of these other places, right? Now, if you do have the chance to actually go to a training camp, there's 2 types of training camps you should think about. The first type of training camp is a training camp related to your race. So specifically trying to get on the venue or a similar terrain for the venue as for your race. Generally speaking, this is great to have in the last 12 weeks leading up to your event. So if your race is in September, any time from June to September is a great time because your fitness is building and now we can put that fitness onto the course or onto a similar course-like experience just to prepare you for what it's going to look like. The hardest part about racing is actually feeling like you're in another planet, in another space. And when that feeling of disorientation hits you, it's very hard to calibrate things. It's sort of like being a great basketball player and I can shoot the lights out, let's go. And then I just cover one of your eyes. Can you still shoot a basketball? Hell yes. Is it easy now? No, it's not. And your bearings are just enough off that it's actually hard to play well. And that's essentially what it is if you're not prepared for the terrain and situation. So kudos if you can get to the place and actually do the training. If you can, then getting to the next closest approximation is great. So if you're doing a hilly course like Lake Placid, how do you get to a place that has some good hills nearby you? You could probably find something within a few hours, right? You don't have to go all the way to Lake Placid to do it. If you live near the race venue, bonus points, you get to spend time on the course, become familiar with not just the terrain, but the surface of the road, the conditions, the lighting, the traffic, but good parts of the road versus the bad part of the road, where to eat, where to hang out. Like you just kind of have all that familiarity. That's a big feather in your cap, a big ace up your sleeve when it comes to race day. The other type of training camp is actually very different. This type of training camp is the one that Endurance Nation runs, where we actually go and do a bunch of volume training, predominantly on the bike, and prepare you for your race by actually doing it much earlier than those 12 weeks. So we'll do it from like 20 to week 12, somewhere in that window. So 5 months out from race, we can do this camp. And that's actually a really big volume boost. In this case, we'll do 5 or 6 days. And we'll do it typically in Italy because you want to do something amazing. This time we're doing it in Belgium, Spain, and Italy this year in 2025. And this is an opportunity for us to build specific cycling volume. And this cycling volume is great because it's non-weight bearing. You can do a ton of it, presuming you have a great saddle, great shorts, great chamois cream, and some good gear to deal with whatever weather you're on. And you just love riding and you have plenty of food to eat. Amazing. And usually these destinations have plenty of great food. This is an opportunity for you to put in 4, 5, 6 hours a day and really boost your fitness like massively. Again, you're going to have to prepare earlier than you want to train for these camps. You take a big rest afterwards, typically a whole week of just rest to absorb what you did. And then we get back to work with all of these capillaries, all this fitness in your system. You can go through a regular season, but you've already raised the whole bar of your training load. So in such that like even your regular training load is only going to be adding more to that as you go through your year. So there's 2 different types of training camps, but the biggest message here about this whole camp strategy is that intermittent volume can actually make a massive difference in your season, and you can actually save your schedule, save your life, and put those race dollars. You just would have signed up for a random half Ironman or some other sort of random race in your town, and instead said, you know what, I'm going to invest strategically. I'm going to go have a ton of fun. I'm going to get to know the terrain. I'm going to test my limits. I'm going to come back stronger and faster, and I'm going to be better on race day. Hope this helped you out. If you have questions, let me know. We always find us on social media, on Facebook and Instagram, or go to endurancestation.us. From there, you can find all of our guides, free resources, download them, learn all about the Endurance Nation way, from our 4 keys of racing to stage tips like these that actually set you apart from the competition. We are doing non-obvious things to be better. We've been doing it since 2007. If you're paying attention, we're happy to help you too. Everyone have a fantastic week. Take care, and I hope to see you next time.
Endurance Nation.
Hey, podcast fans. I know you love the podcast because here you are, you're listening to it and you're still listening to me talk right now. Did you know you can get content just like this in your inbox once a month? We send out a great newsletter. We call it, guess what? The Unfair Advantage. That's right. It's our information to you, something that separates you from the competition. If they're not here, then they don't know. But if you are here, then now you do. Zero excuses. If you go check us out online at endurancenation.us/newsletter, it's your opportunity to enter your email address, sign up for these updates. They come once a month, sometimes twice a month, depending on my race schedule. And it's your chance to get insider information that's going to help you become a better, smarter athlete. Don't miss out on this chance to get ahead of the competition. It doesn't cost you any money, and it's not a ton of work. It's just your email address. That's endurancenation.us/newsletter.
For more information about Endurance Nation, visit us online at endurancenation.us. The provided music is from the Podshow Podsafe Music Network. Check it out at music.podshow.com.